Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this vlog where we'll look at managing joint groups in advanced steel. My name is Jacobus Oberholster. I'm an AEC and Procon technical consultant with Micrographics, and you can check my email address in the bottom left there. So if you have any questions, you can either pop them in the comment section or you can reach out to me by using my email address, and I'll be happy to hear from you and help you as best I can. So, without further ado, let's jump into our short clip. So, in advanced steel, there really is an exceptionally large amount of commands and functionalities that really make structural steel work incredibly simple. It really is an incredibly powerful program, and one that, if you are in the structural steel industry, I would go as far as saying it's probably one of the best programs to use in the AEC collection for structural steel work. It really has a lot of functionality that takes tasks that can be complex and makes them very, very easy. But so today, what we're going to look at is just the joint functionality that we have available to us as advanced steel users. Now, of course, these joints we get from the connection vault. You can also create custom joints that are a bit more rigid than your connections from the already built-in connection vault, but that is a topic for another day. But what we're going to look at today is just the process of managing joint groups. So if we go to the advanced steel tool palette, and we look in our tools category. So just advanced steel tool palette is up there. We go to the tools category and we see that one of the options here is create joint in a joint group. Now, this is an incredibly simple way of basically copying and pasting joints that are exactly the same. So they've got exactly the same geometry, they're bringing together exactly the same members, and that does a few things, and one of them is that it it creates a live copy of the original joint, which makes that joint what they call a master joint, which means that if you adjust anything in this joint properties, all the other joints that are related to this joint here will update automatically. And of course, you can have multiple joint groups, and so it goes on. The technicality here is that it is difficult to actually see which joints belong to which joint group. So we've got two joints here. They are different. And once we create joint groups, you'll see exactly what I mean. So, right, let's go through the process of creating joint groups. So I'm going to click on the command. It says select connection parts. You can either select the bolts or the plates, press enter. And now you must select the objects as you would if you were placing this joint from scratch. So it's going to be that beam and that beam and that one. And so I can go on. Oh goodness, okay, that was a mistake. So I can undo that one. But I can continue on with this. I can just repeat the process. Okay. All right. So this is now all part of the same joint group. So what's going to happen is I can right click on this guy here, not the gizmo, but the joint, advanced joint properties, and you can see these joints. So I'm going to do something maybe that is quite noticeable. So I'm going to change the bolt diameter to 16s, and you can see immediately everything updates. Okay, so you can see all of them now have M16s. If I go back to that joint and I change it, say, to M24s, you can see all of them now have M24s. Now, this is incredibly powerful, especially if you can imagine with a model like this, where you'll have hundreds of these joints. So the same at this point over here as well, we can do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to select that guy, and then I'm going to select there and there, because of course it doubles up on either side. So there and there. Okay. All right. So initially, you can differentiate quite easily between which one is the master joint and which one are the associate or which ones are the associated joints by just looking at the joint box. Right. But if you select a joint, you go to advanced joint properties, you can set this as the primary connection or the master connection. All right. The thing is that once you've gone to those joint properties, you see then that each one of them has a joint box. And this becomes difficult then to manage because the reality is that, say, for instance, later on down the line, this is your preliminary design. You come back and you realize, okay, I want to increase the size of all of these cleats on this side. For some reason, we added some load there. We increased the size of the handrails, the whatever's going to be put on the platform, etc., etc. Now you have to go and find which one of these connections is either the master or primary connection. So the terms are interchangeable. The more connections you have, the more the more difficult that becomes. Right. So there's a few things that you can do. So one of them is once you place the first connection. All right. So this is before you've created the joint group. Make sure that you give this connection a unique name. So I'm going to call this cleat angle 1. You can, of course, have different ways of looking at this, whether it's based on the grid lines, whatever it might be. But this is now cleat angle 1. So if I go to any of these other joints, I go to advanced joint properties, I can see that this is cleat angle 1. Okay, the same over here. So I'm going to change this guy to cleat angle 2. Okay, and now if I go to any of these other connections, we'll see that this is cleat angle 2. Okay, so that's one of the ways to do it. Another way you can do it is by giving the master or primary connection a unique color. But of course, the moment you modify it, that color changes back to whatever layer it was placed in. So, of course, you can now create additional layers. That's also something that you can do where you can have a layer for cleat angle 1, cleat angle 2, which is another way to deal with this, right? So, we can create an extra layer. We can call it cleat angle 1, and we can give it a color. Let's make that yellow, for instance. Just want to make sure that this is the primary connection. So let's just check quickly. And this is the primary connection. All right, so I'm going to select this guy. I'm going to place him in cleat angle 1. Okay. The bolts and those things are in a separate group, and you can decide whether or not you want to place all of them in a group. Just be mindful that that could potentially down the line cause some problems. So that's just something that you have to keep track of. But all right, so what's nice about that is if you want to find that connection, what you can do is turn all the layers off and only keep that specific joints layer, the layer that joint belongs to. You can only keep that specific layer on. You can quickly identify the connection and then work from there. Right, so that's another thing that you can do. The one thing that I probably like the most is to actually create a specific view using the Project Explorer. So I open the Project Explorer. I go to a new model view. So you can see that over there. I go at joint box and I select a joint box for that specific joint. Okay, remember that you're going to do this before you start creating the joint group. You can always do it after, like I'm doing now, but it's best to do it before you start actually creating the joint group. So I'll call this one cleat angle 1. We have a view direction, so I'm just going to select the top, and that's it. All right, so I'm going to do it. I think this guy here is the primary connection. Let's have a look. No, actually not. So it must be that guy over there. You can see why you want to do this right at the beginning. Let's have a look. All right, this is the primary connection. So again, add joint box. I'm going to select the joint box, cleat angle 2. That's going to be apex 2, whatever. All right. So now, if you want to identify the connection. Okay, so you've now looked, you want to adjust this entire row of connections here. You've right-clicked on one of them and identified their name. So you can see, okay, this is cleat angle 1. So you go to the Project Explorer, you look in your model views, and you activate cleat angle 1. And there you go. You've got that connection now isolated. Okay, just this other side is not yet, so I'm just going to put that cleat angle 1. But now you know that if you modify this, so right click and go to joint properties, you can change it and you can know that all of those connections will update. And that really is, as far as I'm aware, just a really good way of managing your joint groups, and make sure when you place a joint that you create a model view. Honestly, I think it's a good practice, even if you only have one or two of those connections potentially. But it's just a good practice that you can easily identify a specific connection when you want to make changes throughout your model. It's a nice way of documenting all of your connections and just making sure that you go and change the right connection. Because all of this, you can, of course, in a sense, not collaborate. Sure, how's the word? How's the word now gone? But you can sort of create a reference in a drawing that this is cleat angle 1, that's cleat angle 2, and so forth. And that really helps. So I hope that you found this helpful. Honestly, if you know of any other way of just managing your joint groups so you stay on top of which one of these joints is the master joint, please shout, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. This is really what I've come across, or what I've just in terms of developing this workflow, what I really think is the best way to deal with it and to manage your joint groups like that. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. Like the clip, it really goes a long way in getting more exposure for this particular type of clips. And then send me a mail if you need some extra information, if you need help with anything. I'd really love to hear from you. But other than that, hope that you have an awesome day further. And I look forward to seeing you in the next couple of clips, which will all be advanced steel related.